Grow what you eat. I'm Naima Latif with today's 10-minute tip for how to grow your own food. Growing food is maintenance, just like raising your children. When you're raising your crops, you got to pay attention to them every day. And every day, there may be something different. You might see a problem. You might see some kind of invasion of plants that you don't want growing in your garden bed. You have to gently remove them so that you don't disturb the plants that are growing there. And you also have to make sure that you don't spray anything that could be damaging to your food. Pesticides are an absolute no no. There are a lot of natural ways you can repel plants that may be creeping in on your food crops. There are ways that you can make sure your soil is healthy so that those aggressively growing plants don't overrun where you want to grow your food. But the most important thing is to pay attention. So, we're going to take a look at how our food crops are progressing. We've had a few days of rain, and the days that it didn't rain, you also have to look at the soil and see if it's getting too dry. You don't want days to pass where your plants are struggling to survive. Just like a sick child, if you don't tend to them, the sickness gets worse and then it manifests into something else. And you don't want your plants to ever get to the point where they're so bad off you can't revive them. So, growing food is a day to day process of watching and observing and correcting any problem. So, let's take a look at how things have been growing in our garden. Our vegetable plants are growing nicely. We see that we've got quite a bit of growth with our tomato plants, and we also see that we've got a few uninvited plants. These, of course, are dandelion leaves, and we know that the best way to remove them is to manually dig them up. We've got a few growing in with our garlic as well. And we also see a few burdock plants growing up. Well, we don't want them growing here in our vegetable garden. So we're going to have to manually dig them up. And the soil is just moist enough. It's always best to dig when it's moist after rain or after watering so that we can make sure that these unwanted plants don't take away nutrients from our vegetable plants. So far our carrot plants seem to be doing okay. We do have to make sure we don't have problems with over watering. Now we do have a few brown spots on our kale plants. We want to make sure that the dark leaves are okay. We want to make sure that we're not subjecting them to overwatering. And we've got some more garlic over here. And the good thing is that we don't see a whole lot of encroachment of unwanted plants. A few along the sides there, we'll remove those before they get too large. But the main thing is to make sure that the soil is nice and healthy looking, and we remove any infestations of other plants that can tend to be very aggressive, such as dandelions. We see that we realize we've got some lettuce growing here in addition to our greens, our mustard greens. But right next to them, we do have a very aggressive growth of dandelions, and you're gonna see what these other little leaves are. Let's check our app that can picture this and tell us what it is. So now let's take a look. These are some very interesting little plants. It's hard to tell what they are with these little leaves. So what are they? Let us take a look and see. White clover. Okay, well, we know that clover is very aggressive and will grow in distressed soil sometimes if it's lacking in nitrogen. So we're going to see how much we can maybe add some composted soil. We need to get some nitrogen into this soil so that the clover isn't so aggressive and growing in our vegetables. It's also, we've got a lot of little clover growing where our onions are, and looks like they're pretty much overrun some of our other vegetable plants here. They're all around where we're growing our celery, and we don't want our celery to be overpowered by the dandelion leaves or the clover, all of which grow when there is a lack of nitrogen in the soil. And nitrogen is generally one of those nutrients that the soil needs in order to produce good vegetable crops. So some of these plants that grow well even when the nitrogen is lacking are dandelions, because they add nitrogen to the soil as well as clover. So the thing about it, though, of course, they will be very aggressive and can overpower your other food crops. Even though these are also edible, we're not trying to have them compete for space with our intentionally grown food crops. So as we plant more, we're going to also manually dig up these plants that have gotten a bit aggressive. Now here we have some kind of aggressively growing burdock. Beautiful leaves, but we don't want them here. So we're going to have to remove them as they're coming across the fence, and they don't know anything about, boundaries. They're gonna spread. So we see them growing in this area where we're going to start planting our collard greens and potatoes. So we're going to need to clear out the clover and other plants that are not what we desire for our food plants, and that's okay. But never ever use pesticides in soil where you're going to be growing food, because you will be poisoning yourself. So we're going to remove these burdock leaves, and we may make something else out of them. We may make some more burdock soup, nice fresh burdock leaves, but we do need to remove them from this area where we're going to be growing more of our vegetable plants. Digging up a plant like dandelion requires a tool that's got a sharp edge, because you're going to have to dig deep all the way down to the root. If you just get the top part, it's just going to grow right back. So you really have got to uproot the root, and that's what we've had to do. So there you have it. And you have to make sure you don't uproot your other plants, so you want to kind of
resettle your vegetable plants. But that's one that was kind of aggressively taking over, so we needed to remove that before it got too comfortable in that space. We've got another one over here. Oh, sorry, Charlie, you got to go. So we're uprooting it all the way down to the roots, so that we have removed the roots. And we want to make sure we settle the dirt, the soil surrounding it, and we know that we're going to have to remove anything that could tend to take over this space where our vegetables are growing. We also know that our tomato plants are going to start really growing, and we're going to need something for them to lean on as they get taller, because these are plants that need to sometimes latch on and wind around something so that they can stay upright.
One of the reasons why we took the time to see what's already growing in your yard, those plants that are commonly referred to as weeds, is because wherever plants are growing, they're probably going to continue growing. They're probably going to, because they're spreading their seeds in that area, they're probably going to come back. And you'll have to keep digging them up and removing them as you grow your food plants. But now that we know that literally everything that we've looked at so far has been food, it's been some kind of way used for our nutrition. We can make different dishes, whether it's teas, whether it's burgers, veggie burgers, whether we even have a recipe for dandelion chips. You can make snacks, all kinds of things. So optimally, ideally, we want 100% usage out of everything that grows out of the ground, whether it's plants that we intended to grow or plants that are growing wild. Even when we pull them up, we want to always use what is there, recycle it, make it into a dish, make it into a tea, make it into something, but don't just throw it in the garbage, because it's not garbage. It's food, it's medicine, it's for your benefit. So even as you go through the process of weeding, you still want to put aside those plants that you have taken up and make something out of them, so that you are efficient in your farming. Even those plants that need to be removed can still be used. So be conscious as you farm, be conscious as you grow, be conscious as you remove unwanted plants. Do it gently so that you don't disturb those plants that you intended to grow. And sometimes the aggressive growth of plants like clover and dandelion and burdock, they're letting you know that you need to feed your soil the kind of nutrients that's going to make it healthy, so that it's not being overrun by aggressively growing plants that can thrive in distressed or neglected soil. So next time we'll take a look at composting, planning where you're going to grow your plants so that they are next to those plants that perhaps don't compete for the same space. It's all very organized and strategic. And most importantly, it requires constant attention so that no plant is neglected. You wouldn't neglect your children. Don't neglect your food plants. I'm Naima Latif. Grow what you eat. We'll see you